Okay, I
Right,
think
it's
I think
live now, Ingrid.
okay, well, good evening. Sorry we had some technical difficulties, but I think it's working now. Hopefully it's working. Um, so this is the Global Brain Project Google Hangout, which happens every Friday night at 6:45 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time and 11:45 p.m. UK time. And this is meant as a way to give you some backdrop to what the Global Brain Project meditations, weekly meditations are about, which happen every Saturday at 6
11.
p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 11 p.m. UK time, and 12:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and 5:30 UK time. So that's every Saturday, and we are now approaching the 144th weekly meditation. And so my name is Peter Liu. David Russell is with us tonight. He's the founder of the Global Brain Project. And there he is, yeah. And we invite you to submit your questions, so please do that. If you are able to do that on this page, there's a Q&A. If you cannot, you can also submit questions on the Global Brain Project Hangout page itself. There's a thread there, and just post your questions and we'll try to get to them. For those who are not familiar with the Global Brain Project weekly meditation, the purpose of this is to synchronize people around the globe to meditate at the same time with the idea that, or with the reality that when there are sufficient numbers of people meditating at the same time, there is a measurable physical effect that happens throughout the globe, affecting the consciousness not only of the meditators, but of the total consciousness of the globe. And this has been measured by various methods, such as the Global Consciousness Project, which is basically a global network of computers that generate random numbers. And when there is some sort of coherence of thought patterns throughout the globe, which is at a minimum, I think 0.001%, is that right, David?
Yeah, well, whether that will actually register or not is debatable, but when there is a major event in the world and global consciousness changes, it is reflected by the Global Consciousness Project binary systems. The binary goes into a coherent form. That's all.
Yes. Yeah. So, for those who do meditate in groups, I think you can feel the effect of that, certainly, and I do, and I always try to meditate in groups as much as possible, and this is a unique opportunity for us to coordinate simply through the Facebook Hangout events, or the events that coordinates our weekly meditations. So that's just a quick overview of what we're doing, and so let me introduce David Russell. David.
Hi everybody. Today I'd like to talk about something I posted earlier. Earlier I posted a quote from the Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama said, prayer and meditation, I have to tell you, is the highest form of prayer, is never going to create world peace. It is only human beings that are going to create world peace. And I want to talk to you about that because he is absolutely right. Whilst meditation can create a coherent backdrop against which world peace can appear, it is only through us getting out on the streets, shouting our mouths off, making a lot of noise, waving our banners, protesting about everything that needs us to protest about it, that is the way world peace happens. It is action on the streets by us. I would not like people to think that I am so unrealistic that I think that meditation is going to change the world without a lot of action. Meditation, of course, is action, but it's action at a subtle level. And the world on the whole does not function at a subtle level. The world functions at an extremely gross level. And to reflect that, we need to interface with the action level that applies in the world, and that action level happens on the streets. It happens in day-to-day interaction between large groups of people and governments. And you know, you cannot underestimate the effect of these things, nor can you underestimate the effect of petitions. If you get a petition that is about something that needs your signature, sign it. Petitions work. Petitions work. They are not empty pieces of paper. I have so many examples of petitions having an effect. So please do sign petitions. Okay, Peter, any questions? Oh, there was a question from, hold on, Rashid Malik Gladden, and he asked, how does someone become happy? Well, you know, quite frankly, how long's a piece of string? If he'd like to tell us what makes him happy, I'll tell him how to achieve it. Essentially, I can only talk from my own experience here. I am an extremely happy, stable, consistent person. I wake up in a good mood and I stay in that good mood all day. I go to bed in the same good mood and I am the same every day. How I have done that is I have meditated for a long time, and therefore I am not suffering from a great deal of debilitating stress, and I organized my life to be what I wanted it to be. I mean, I'm a writer, so I didn't want a job. I wanted to write. Excuse me. And so what happened was I managed to organize my life in such a way that I stopped working when I was in my 30s and have not worked in a job since. That does not mean to say that I do not work. I work all the time. I mean, I'm promoting the meditation event apart from anything else on a constant daily basis. But I have not had a job. And that's exactly what I wanted from my life. I wanted the freedom of not working, the freedom to do what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. And that makes me happy. And you know, it is a matter of, I mean, if it's material possessions that make you happy, well, quite frankly, the same thing applies. Meditate. Meditation makes everything smoother, and it will make your karma smoother. It will make your future smoother. I cannot promise anything, but meditation makes for a much better personal integrity and a much better external integrity. And it's those two things together that create happiness. So if Rashid would like to tell us what makes him happy, I will tell him exactly how to achieve it. But other than that, it's a case of how long is a piece of string. Were there any other questions, Peter?
Well, I would just go into that a little bit. It's actually the two things you brought up are interesting, and I think they're intertwined. My take on that. One is, and Rashid's question, which is an interesting one. How does one become happy, or what? I think two questions come to mind immediately. Is what do you mean by happy, right?
Right,
what
absolutely.
is that? And also, I would also offer that happiness, uh, together with the first piece that you brought up regarding peace in the world, is happiness perhaps is not a question of conditionality, at least not the one that we're aiming at with the global meditation. In other words, that if your environmental conditions are what determine what makes you happy, then it's kind of like putting the cart before the horse. In other words, like you won't be happy until you have achieved like whatever it is that you're achieving. Let's say you need a house and a nice environment to be in, and there's peace in the world already. Rather, I would say that you must be happy already, despite whatever conditions exist, and therefore you can manifest that in the world. And I think that goes to the first piece that you brought up, which is the relationship between meditation and world peace. In other words, we are perhaps, I like to think of that what goes on within our, for instance, our brain, our particular enclosed entities, which I might call the microcosmic. There's a certain thing that happens physically through meditation that the brain itself integrates and achieves an internal coherence through being receptive to the techniques of whatever meditation that you practice.
There are whole neural connections that are remapped through meditation. I mean, this has been very, very closely researched with Tibetan monks. There are whole areas of the brain that are completely remapped in terms of neural connections. The waves that the brain produces in meditation change completely. In meditation, I believe the waves one produces are D waves in meditation. I could be wrong. But meditation has an amazingly positive effect on the brain. There is this discipline called neuroplasticity. And in fact, I have an article on the website about neuroplasticity, about how the brain changes through meditation and to accommodate deeper meditation. So, you know, there is it actually has a fundamental physical effect on the brain, on the physicality of the brain. Sorry, Peter, I interrupted you. Do go on.
Yes, absolutely. And I think in terms of the Global Brain Project meditations, what we're doing is networking our combined consciousness, or the global collective consciousnesses, together through the meditation. In other words, like our receptiveness to the cosmos can happen in a very magnified way, in a macrocosmic way that is reflected or transmitted, let's say, through the microcosmic of our particular locations within things that we call ourselves or our persons. And so and those effects, as we were saying, have manifestations, which then can become the backdrop, as David was saying, towards creating a peaceful environment, a peaceful society. That, but it comes first from ourselves, and so the conditions shift from a unconditional space, or not space, but emanation from within our inner, deeper meditations. And how we take action from that, which is, I think, the crucial thing, is you know, we are doing things currently in the world that we also need to have that foundation from which we can base our actions, so that we know that those actions are true and authentic. So that's um, a little bit of perspective, I think, towards those two pieces that you just mentioned, David.
And you are absolutely right. It is action that is meaningful. Action has the only meaning. We can philosophize, we can think about, we can discuss, we can debate, we can talk about religion, spirituality, philosophy until the cows come home. Absolutely no effect. Getting out on the streets, hitting preferably policemen with the old banner, that has an effect. Usually it gets you arrested, but it does have an effect. Um, yeah, it is only action that is meaningful. Action sings. Words, they're as empty. They're as empty as anything. They're just a lot of hot air, you know? I mean, you can listen to this. You can listen to this until the cows come home. It's not going to have any effect on the world. It really isn't. What's going to have an effect is you getting out there and doing something about it. And that's what we should all be doing something about it. None of us like this. None of us like the world in the state it's in. None of us like the situation in the Middle East. None of us like what's going on in Iraq, in Gaza, in the Ukraine. We all want to change that stuff. Well, let's get out there. I mean, we've seen protests all over the world about Gaza over the last few days. That's how things change. Although I have to say, with respect to the Israelis, they're a bit intransigent when it comes to suggestions for peace. They don't actually. I mean, the comments that Netanyahu made to Ban Ki-moon were absolutely breathtakingly, amazingly arrogant. I mean, quite frankly, the Jews have to acknowledge that they are killing children. And these children, they're not Hamas terrorists. They're children. Come on, they're children. Get real, Israel. Stop killing children. What we ought to do, what I would do if there was a protest that I could get to within a reasonable distance, I would be out on the streets myself protesting about this. It is absolutely immoral what is happening between Israel and Gaza. I mean, let's be clear. The Palestinians have no army, have no air force, have no navy. All they've got is civilians, and it's the civilians that are suffering. That's not fair. That's not fair. Yeah. Okay, sorry, that's my rant of the day.
Yeah. Well, I would offer too that the oppressive forces also need to meditate. I would like to see that happen. The Israelis and any oppressive forces. I would like to see them meditate, because that will have an effect on their actions as well.
Yeah.
I think basically healing has to happen on all sides, because all sides really everything belongs to the cosmos, and so it's really the integration and coherence stuff that we need to move forward with.
However, if we can't get them to meditate, just through our meditation, we can drag them reluctantly towards peace. They don't need to meditate. Once they get to the peace zone, they'll start to meditate. I mean, this is such a cumulative syndrome. The way the meditation has spread throughout the world through Facebook, to a large extent, has been so cumulative. It has been like a stone that's been rolling down a hill, and it's gathered a lot of moss. And once we've dragged these people reluctantly towards world peace, well, you know, when you're not fighting people, you get a much more balanced perspective on what life is about. And if you want a good life, meditation has to come into that somewhere. If you want to live a life that is fulfilled, achieves your aims, brings you happiness, meditation is the way to do it. And you know, you can't ignore that. However, it's very easy to ignore it when you're focused on killing people. That's all.
Yeah, I think last week you mentioned you gave a metaphor of the candle that a single candle will dispel darkness, and that's really the power of why such small numbers of people that meditate simultaneously can have an effect, because it doesn't really take all that. It doesn't take much for coherence to start happening. It's much more powerful than the incoherent energy that is going around now and creating
The
mayhem.
cosmos wants coherence. It's desperate for coherence. So a coherent force within the world is greatly appreciated by the cosmos. I mean, the cosmos is in a state now where, quite frankly, it expects us to have these meditation events. I can feel the cosmos. Sorry, this sounds really weird, but I can feel the cosmos curling up with glee every time we meditate. It loves it. It loves it. It's just what the cosmos wants. And if we could get a lot more people doing it, the cosmos would be that much more ecstatic about it. And the cosmos, of course, will provide us with the support. It does already provide us with support. So that's that. Yes, meditation is so important for the cosmos. The cosmos really wants people to meditate. It wants people to evolve. I mean, that's what life is about, evolution. It wants people to evolve, to become higher beings, to function from a higher level, ideally to function from the supreme highest level, which is a level of enlightenment. Okay, that takes a while to achieve, and we're never going to achieve a state where the majority of people are enlightened, but just a few enlightened people elevate the world beyond all measure. So, what else can I talk about, Peter?
Well, there was actually, interestingly, there was another question
Yes.
that was posted, and I think it was meant as a little bit of a joke, but actually it actually does pertain to what we were just saying here. The question was, "Dear brain, what next?" That's exactly what we're talking about here, about what happens from meditation, the kind of action that you can take from a place of peace, and your action becomes that much more effective because you have a place of integration that you're moving from, and a place where insights can happen all the time for you. And as you were saying, David, there are physical changes that are basically permanent in our physical brains from meditation, and those permanent changes are cumulative and evolutionary. And so I would definitely encourage everybody to maintain a daily practice, and you may or may not notice any shifts or changes, but they're happening, and there's absolutely no way that they don't happen. And so please do meditate on a daily basis and join us, because when you have a community of people that are doing the same thing as you, that actually adds not only to your cause but to everybody else's cause.
Yes, indeed.
So
that sounds like you were winding it up, Peter.
Yes. I think we'd just like to encourage you to join us tomorrow for the meditations. and every week, and come back also next Friday at the same time.
And please ask us questions. Please ask us any questions. I mean, even the silly questions. We will try and answer them.
Yeah.
And as for Brain, what's next? Everybody should ask that question every day, and the answer should be meditation. That's what's next.
Excellent. Very good. Okay, so well, thank you very much, David, and everybody out there. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Peter.
We will see you next week. The cosmos loves you, and we love you as well.
Yes, we do indeed love you. Thank you very much for being with us. We hope you'll join us next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good night.